I welcome all of you to the second semester. In this semester, I am handling the common paper Zeitgeist, Readings on Society and Culture. There are 4 modules in this paper. I will be going through module 2nd and module 3rd. Module 2nd is Sustainable Environment and module 3rd is Gender. Let's begin with second chapter in module 2nd. It's a poem on killing a tree written by Jeev Patel. We are going through the biography of Jeev Patel, his early life and education. Jeev Patel was born in 1940 in Mumbai. His parents were from a small village called Nargol in southern Gujarat. His father was a dentist. He was educated at St. Xavier's High School and Grand Medical College. He is a famous Indian poet, playwright, and artist, as well as a practicing doctor. Patel belongs to a group of writers who have subscribed themselves to the Green Movement, which is involved in an effort to protect the environment. His poems speak of deep concerns for nature and expose man's cruelty to it. He currently resides in Mumbai and practices medicine. Then we are going through his career. Patel's works include poems which was launched by Nissim Ezekiel in 1966, How Do You Withstand, Body and Mirrored Mirroring. He has also written 3 plays titled Princess, Savaska and Mr. Behram. He is also a painter. As one of the contemporary Indian artists, he has been part of exhibitions around the world. He held his first show in Mumbai in 1966 that went on to have several major exhibitions in India and abroad. Patel participated in the Menton Biennale, France in 1976, India, Myth and Reality, Oxford in 1982. Contemporary Indian Art, Royal Academy, London 1982. Patel belongs to that avant-garde grouping of artists based in Bombay and Baroda. He has also exhibited for Contemporary Indian Art, Grey Art Gallery, New York, 1985, Indian Art from the Hurwitz Collection, Worcester Art Museum, Massachusetts, 1985, and Corps de Choir, Geneva, 1987. He has been conducting a poetry workshop in Rishi Valley School for over a decade. He also edited a collection of poetry which was published in 2006. He is considered as the poet of the body. Jeev Patel is considered to be the poet of the body since human body is a repeated theme in a majority of his poems. In his poems, the body acts as a living metaphor. His sympathies are with the oppressed or downtrodden and anyone without his basic right to live. In an appropriately titled poem, The Ambiguous Fate of Jeev Patel, he being neither a part of Hinduism nor Islam in India, he grieves the isolation faced by the Parsis in the starting line of the short poem based on communal rights when he writes, "To be no part of this hate is deprivation. As a passive observer, he cannot choose to be a part of either side. he poignantly remarks, planets focus their fires into a worm of destruction, edging along the continent. Bodies turn ashen and shrivel. I only burn my tail. He is thus counted among the well-known Parsi writers in India. He walked the audience through the gallery and discussed his painting Statesman on a floral rostrum, which was on display. He spoke about his creative process as well as his responses to his fellow artists who shared the gallery space with him. This was the second of 3 walkthroughs of the show 6 Decades, celebrating the Mumbai artists from the Jehangir Nicholson collection that enriched the interaction between artists, the collection and the public. His works are direct and unambiguous, achieving an objective precision. He addresses social realities but avoids the reductivism of hardline political positions. Patel painted satirical portraits of politicians. Since 1991, Patel has consistently explored the central image of the water well. He often refers to it as the navel of the earth, and it is his place for contemplation. In his later works, Patel's finely tuned painterliness is seen as the surfaces of his works are mottled with a carefully modulated series of textures. Old age is surely the main subject tackled by these works. Patel draws his inspiration from various human situations. He sees a sense of poetry even in the rough situations that humans have to face, and his paintings are a manifestation of this. The common man doing everyday things are a regular feature of his work. His paintings reveal that he is a keen observer. The clothes, the postures, and the stances that he encounters every day are faithfully reproduced in his work. A self-taught artist dedicated to multiple professions, J. Patel has imaged a sensitive and acute awareness of the human condition throughout a 40-year painting practice. Sourcing inspiration from the quietude of nature and the pulse of the city, his work articulates a mature, restrained balance between figuration rooted in realistic naturalism and the freedom of painterly abstraction. Patel has written extensively about contemporary Indian art and until his recent retirement was also a practicing physician. Patel published his first book of poems and held his earliest solo exhibition in Bombay in 1966, which was followed by exhibitions at Kunika Chemauld, Delhi in 1972 and Gallery Chemauld, Bombay in 1975. In the 1970s and 80s, he refined an ability to describe the universal experience of isolation in eloquent representations of the urban industrial landscape and common people, sights and even animals in Bombay. During this period, Patel's artistic practice dovetailed with initiatives of artists based in Baroda and Bombay, who responded to contemporary politics and everyday situations with an emphasis on narrative figuration. While continuing to build on distinct trope of representing violent deaths in the 1980s. In works like Crushed Head, it was published in 1984, and Battered Man in Landscape, it was published in 1993, the artist rendered victimized heads and torsos detached from specific aggressors and locational contexts. Like the resilient figures living in his urban scapes, Patel wounded his victims with empathetic sensitivity and characteristic attention to the contours, shadows and colors at heart of the human form. In the 1990s, Patel embarked on the long-term series of visual translations drawn from the wells of his ancestral Gujarat. He has been awarded the Woodrow Wilson Fellowship in 1984, the Rockefeller Fellowship in 1992, and been the C.R. Parekh Writer in Residence Norman Foundation grant at the University of Pennsylvania in 2003. I think all of you got a clear idea about the author Jeev Patel. In this semester, we are going to enjoy Jeev Patel's very famous poem on killing a tree. Now we are going through an introduction to the poem on killing a tree. The poem on killing a tree has been taken from Jeev Patel's anthology named Poems. The poem is a graphic picture of man's cruelty towards the tree, which symbolizes nature. The poet gives us step-by-step instructions on how to kill a tree and makes us realize that killing a tree is akin to murdering a human being. Akin means related by blood. It also refers to the destructive nature of humans and the indestructibility of nature. On killing a tree paints a vivid and brutal picture of what is involved in killing a tree. Then we are going through the setting of the poem on killing a tree. The setting of the poem is the modern world. The world is facing rapid deforestation for urbanization and industrialization. This world where trees are being killed is the setting of the poem. Before starting the poem, you don't forget to go through the page number 37 in your textbook. Let me recite the first stanza for you. It takes much time to kill a tree. Not a simple jab of the knife will do it. It has grown slowly, consuming the earth, rising out of it, feeding upon its crust, absorbing years of sunlight, air, water, and out of its leprous hide, sprouting leaves. Now we are going through the glossary. Jab. Jab means push something sharp quickly. Next word is crust. Crust means outside part. Then the next word is leprous. Leprous resembling leprosy. I think all of you are very familiar with the disease leprosy. Here leprous hide, it means leprous skin. Hide here skin. Sprouting. Sprouting means produce new leaves. Then we are going through the paraphrase of this first stanza. The poet tells us that killing a tree is a difficult and time-consuming process. It is not an easy job. Definitely, we should take time to kill a tree forever. Simply stabbing it with a knife is not enough to kill it. A tree grows straight out the earth, getting its nourishment from the nutrients found in the earth along with years of sunlight, water and air. The leaves and branches of the tree sprout from its bark or its skin, which looks diseased because it is irregular and dry. We are speaking about the bark of the tree. We can see the bark of the trees are irregular and dry. It is not very smooth. It is very rough. That's why the poet calls it as leprous hide. In this first stanza, Jiv Patel reminds us it is not an easy job to kill a tree forever. We can't kill the tree very easily by just a jab because it is very powerful. It consumes water, sunlight and air just like a parasite from the earth. By using these nutrients, it becomes a giant. So it's a very difficult job to kill a tree forever. Then we can move to the second stanza. So hack and chop, but this alone won't do it. Not so much pain will do it. The bleeding bark will heal, and from close to the ground will rise curled green twigs, miniature buds, which if unchecked will expand again to former size. We can go through the glossary. Hack. Hack means cut into pieces in a rough and violent way. Next word is chop. Chop means cut something into smaller pieces. Next word is curled green twigs. Small branches of trees. Miniature means very small. Boughs means large branches of trees. Then we are going through the paraphrase of the second stanza. Hacking a tree with a knife or an axe or chopping off a bough may inflict pain on the tree, but it is not enough to bring a tree down. The bleeding bark, the wound in the bark from where the sap flows out or where a bough has been chopped off, will heal with time. Sap means liquid in the tree. In Malayalam, marathinte kara. New green twigs will grow again. Boughs that were chopped off will be replaced by new boughs, which will grow to their former size. Through these lines, poet speaks about the healing power of trees. He reminds us it's not easy to kill a tree forever. In this stanza, poet speaks about the healing power of trees. After stabbing or jabbing the tree, we just hacked and chopped the tree. Then he reminds us by doing this, we can't kill the tree forever because trees have the power to heal its wound. When we chop or cut the tree, we can see the liquid flows from the tree. The sap of the tree, it's just like a human being's blood. Human being's blood is in red color, but here it is not in red color. So we humans are not at all ready to accept it as blood. Through these lines, the poet reminds us trees have also the power to heal the wound just like human beings. It has also blood. It has also the freedom to live in this earth. If we are not at all ready to check it regularly after cutting the tree, it will grow into its former size. Then we can go through the third stanza. No, the root is to be pulled out of the anchoring earth. It is to be roped, tied, and pulled out, snapped out, or pulled out entirely out from the earth cave, and the strength of the tree exposed, the source white and wet, the most sensitive hidden for years inside the earth. Let us go through the glossary. First word is anchoring earth. Something that serves to hold an object firmly. That is anchoring earth. Next word is snapped out. Snapped out means break quickly with a short, sharp sound. Sensitive. Sensitive means responding quickly. Then we can go through the paraphrase of the third stanza. The poet then goes on to give instructions how a tree can be killed. He says to kill a tree, its root has to be pulled out of the earth. The term anchoring earth implies that the trees are held secure with the help of the roots in the earth. So long as the roots are firmly held by the earth, the tree is safe and cannot be killed by a simple jab of a knife. To kill the tree, it is essential that the root, which is the source of a tree's life, must be pulled out of its deep hole in the earth. Then we are going to speak about the next term, earth cave. By earth cave, the poet suggests the space created in the earth by uprooting a tree. Once the center, the life source, the root is exposed, the tree becomes powerless. The source is described as white and wet, probably mentioning to tree sap, which is a white liquid. I hope all of you went through the terms anchoring earth and earth cave well. Through this stanza, the poet reminds us the power of a tree. Its roots are very powerful. It's very difficult job to pull out the roots from its earth cave. It will take time to kill a tree forever. Then we are moving to the last stanza. Then the matter of scorching and chalking in sun and air, browning and hardening, twisting, withering, and then it is done. We can go through the glossary of this stanza. First word is scorching. Scorch means burning at a high intensity. Chalk means to make someone stop breathing by expressing their thought with the hands. Here it means to deaden the tree by exposing it to overheat. Hardening. Hardening means having dark. Next word is twisting. Twisting means turn into shape. Last word is withering. Withering means fading from life. I hope all of you got the clear idea about the glossary in this stanza. We can go through the paraphrase of this stanza. If it is exposed to the sun and air, this life source will be scorched. Scorched means burning at a high intensity. Slowly it will start to become brown with all the softness fading out. With time, it will wither, become dry, and bent out of shape, leaving a corpse where a tree used to be. In short, the exposure will leave the root vulnerable to all unexpected changes of weather, which will ultimately weaken the tree and kill it. Definitely, when we go through this process, it will become powerless. Through these steps, we can kill the tree forever. It will not come back to its life. The steps of killing a tree are very important. So, you should go through the steps very clearly. Hacking and chopping, pulled out from the anchoring earth, wrapped, tied, and pulled out, and also snapped out from the earth cave. After that, we will ensure that the source of the tree takes from the earth cave and anchoring earth completely, because it is the most powerful part of the tree. Then we are going through the chemical process: scorching, chalking, browning, hardening, twisting. Final step is withering. I hope all of you have enjoyed the beautiful poem on killing a tree written by Jeev Patel. Don't forget to go through the lines of the poem, page number 38 in your textbook. We will go through the message, tone, figure of speech and the question answers in our next class. Thank you.